Okay, good morning and welcome to Mishna Yomi. Today we're doing Maseches Terumos, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Yud, and that will be the conclusion of Perek Aleph, and then we'll start Perek B's Mishnah Aleph. Mishnah Yud, in Torah Midarash Nigmar Malachto, Al Darash Al Nigmar Malachto. Really, the Chiyuv of Trumos and Maestros, the full Chiyuv of Take of Trumos and Maestros, only occurs when it's completely processed. The thing, meaning Nigmar Malachto, let's say you have a pile full of wheat. It's smooth, the wheat reaches Gmar Malacha. I would imagine it means that it's processed, meaning you remove the chaff and you have the seeds or whatever, or anything that reaches is completely processed. So that's when it comes chayiv and Terumos and Maishos, because you're supposed to give something to the Kohen, which is royal achila, that it could eat it. So to take off Shnigmar Malachto, Shalom Nigmar Malachto, from one to the other, it's really basically like Chiyav al Ptur. But the truth is that even if it's not completely processed, it still is considered to be, you can still take off Terumos and Maishos, as long as it's partially processed. You can take, and it's chal to take off Terumos and Maishos, it's chal. For example, you can only eat it achilas arai. You can eat achilas arai, not achilas kavah, before it's processed. After it's processed, you can't even eat a snack. So once it's completely processed, it becomes tevel, and the pasuk says kedagam and agorin kamleim and ayekev, right? The real halacha of Terumos and Maestros only apply when it's completely processed. So therefore, to take off a completely processed food to pater or something which is not processed, or vice versa, right? Or even if you took off from unprocessed to unprocessed, that's not really when you have the chiyuv and Terumos and Maestros. You mavatel the mitzvah of taking off Terumos and Maestros, because the mitzvah of the raisa really only occurs when it's completely processed. In Tarmu Terumos and Terumah, the Eved, like we said before, Terumos and Maestros is still considered tevel already before it becomes fully processed. At a certain point, when it becomes partially processed, that you can't eat it anymore as a meal. You can only eat it as a snack. So therefore, at that point, Terumos and Truma, it's partially processed, so therefore the Truma is effective, because the whole reason is that you want to do the mitzvah the best way, and the best way is to give him fully processed stuff, and take him pater fully processed stuff. We're going to explain in the second paragraph, the next Mishnah, how it's supposed to be a fair process also. So even to take off processed stuff, which is roy for the Kohen, a big matana for the Kohen, it's processed, it's fully ready for the Kohen, and to pater, to exempt a kri which is not nigmar malachto, you're losing out. It's not fair for you. So therefore, it's not really lechatchila, but yeah, but it's okay. Parag Beis Mishnah Aleph in Torah min Torah al Tameh in Tarmu Terumos and Truma. This Mishnah says if you have two piles, one is Torah and one is Tameh, even though when you're taking off Truma, you're giving the Torah to the Kohen, which is very important to the Kohen, because the Kohen can only eat Truma, which is Torah. If it's Tameh, the Kohen can only burn it as fuel for his stove. He can't actually eat it. It's a hefsed mamon for the Kohen. Here you're patering Tameh, you're a Yisrael. It doesn't matter whether the chulin is Tameh or not. The rest of your produce that you're exempting from Terumos and Maestros is Tameh. You're still not supposed to do this. In Tarmu Terumos and Truma, but the Eved, if you did it, it's okay. Now the Rav explains the reason is that because one of the halachas about taking off Terumos and Maestros has to be min amukaf. It has to be you're taking off from one thing that's next to each other. How close it has to be, right? The two piles are going to have to be next to each other. There's halacha by chala, but also by Terumos and Maestros by extension. And there's a gzeira that if one part is Torah and one part is Tameh, you're going to distance yourself because you don't want to be metame the Torah part, and therefore you're going to be Torah Shalom and Amukaf. It's gzeira derabanan. I have a different explanation. I'll share that with you in Ian Hamishna. Ha'igol shal dveila. Let's say you have a big cake of figs, right? They're pressed together. Shenitma miksaso. Part of it becomes tameh, meaning some of the figs become tameh. Just because they're pressed together, it doesn't make, just because it touches the other figs, doesn't make the other figs tameh, because they're really distinct figs. Torah min ha-Torah sheyesh ba'al tameh shuvah. Then Chazal allowed you to be Torah from the Torah. Tameh v'chein aguda shal yarak. Let's say you have a bundle of vegetables, v'chein arema, a pile of wheat. Also, the Torah you could take from the Torah to exempt the Tameh. Yushnei igulim shtei aguda shtei aremos. If they were two fig cakes or two separate bundles or two separate piles, Achas me v'achas Torah lo yishrom yizel. Then, like we said before, you shouldn't be Torah min Torah al Tami. Rabbi Lezer Omer Torah min Torah al Tami. Rabbi Lezer says you could do it. We don't pass on like Rabbi Lezer. We'll explain the sheet of the Rabbanan and Mishna coming up right now.